So when people talk about the best Assassin's Creed games, Black Flag is always somewhere near the top, and for good reason. It was a breath of fresh air back in 2013, a pirate game with real depth, a main character who wasn't just another Templar hating assassin, and some of the best naval gameplay we've seen in any open world game. But here's the thing, Black Flag is starting to show its age. It's been over a decade, and while the memories are still strong, the mechanics, visuals, and storytelling all feel stuck in the past. So now that the rumors of a remake are floating around, it's worth asking a big question, and that is, should Black Flag get a remaster, or does it deserve a full-on remake? Well, in this video, this is exactly what we're going to be discussing, and I want you guys to join down in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. To get why Black Flag deserves more than a simple visual upgrade, we really need to look back at why it became a favorite in the first place. This wasn't just an Assassin's Creed game with boat, this was the pirate game. Edward Kenway wasn't your typical noble-blooded assassin. He was a selfish, rough around the edges rogue who stumbled into the Brotherhood almost by accident. That change in perspective made the story feel fresh. You weren't fighting for justice, well, at least not at first. You were chasing freedom, gold, and glory. The open world was a huge part of the game's charm. You could explore islands, hunt sharks, dive into shipwrecks, or get into massive sea battles whenever you wanted. The ocean was more than just scenery. It was alive, unpredictable, and full of possibility. But for all the freedom the game gave us, it was still a product of 2013. Playing Black Flag now feels sort of rough. Don't get me wrong, it's still incredibly fun, but once you've played the newer games or even modern open world titles, it's hard to notice how clunky things feel. The combat is basic and repetitive. You counter until everyone's down. Stealth still relies too much on throwing coins or hiding in bushes, which can be fun. However, there's no real push for stealth, unlike the newer title, Assassin's Creed Shadows. The parkour system is probably the stiffest it's felt in recent titles. Obviously, comparing it to games like Unity, even Mirage, obviously especially Shadows, isn't good because obviously you upgrade, but even back then, it did feel like it needed a little bit more smoothing out. But also, let's not forget the visual. They were amazing for the time it was released, but now, no. The animations are stiff, the facial expressions barely move, and the world, while still beautiful, lacks some of the detail we expect today. However, the story is incredible. I still get emotional when I go back and play the game. It's just now, it deserves an upgrade. Now, all of the things I just listed, a remaster is not going to be able to fix them. You can slap 4K textures and smoother frame rates on it, sure, but the bones of the game, the stuff that actually affects how it plays and feels, are still old. They're still 2013. But what would a remaster actually change? Well, a remaster usually means higher resolution, better lighting and textures, maybe a smoother frame rate, a few UI tweaks, and a quality of life fixes. That's about it. The enemy AI still stays the same, the mission design still rigid, the combat and stealth systems still outdated. I mean, we've seen this happen before. Remember the Assassin's Creed 3 remaster? Remember the Ezio trilogy remaster? It looked nicer-ish, but it still felt clunky and awkward to play. Everything about it, coming up to the story in the open world, was left unchanged. There wasn't anything that they could do to improve it, or there wasn't anything that they even did to do to improve it. And to be honest, especially for the Ezio collection, they sort of ruined it. The lighting and the different textures were all just sort of color graded to the max, and it looked terrible. Most of us were left wondering why they even bothered. A remaster of Black Flag would do the same. It might look better, yeah, but it won't feel better, and this game deserves to feel better. Now, a proper remake means starting over with modern tools, updated mechanics, and fresh design choices, all while keeping the heart of the original intact. Let's get rid of the counter spam, bring in a mix of systems from Shadows and a little bit of Origins. I, however, do not want to have to press R1 or R2 to constantly fight and do heavy attacks. Keep it roughly the same with some cool unique animations whilst you do counter. Edward also deserves to move a bit more like Arno from Unity or Basim from Mirage. More fluid climbing, better animations, and tighter control would make the cities and jungles feel alive again. I don't want him to jump around and do these flips like Nawe, he's not her, but more like Arno and Basim really does feel right with the character. Now, the naval gameplay was already a highlight, but imagine what they could do now. More ship types, realistic weather that affects your sailing, design, more detailed upgrades, actual ship interiors you can explore without having a loading screen, and maybe even more ship stealth mission. But also, what if your choices actually mattered? Now, I'm not talking about having different options to choose while speaking to characters. I'm talking more about what if towns remembered your actions, or pirate crews reacted differently based on your reputation. A remake could flesh out the world with more meaningful systems and dynamic interactions. Think about what we have in Red Dead Redemption 2 and the honor system. Maybe having something like that follows you throughout the world, where depending on where you go, NPCs could recognize you, that sort of stuff. Not the RPG elements. RPG elements should stay far away from this remake. And talking about the story though, Edward's story is great. It's top 5 of the entire series, but the original at the time didn't really have the tech to sell the emotions. With new facial animations, updated voice acting, and better cutscene work, his journey and story could hit even harder. I mean, imagine the ending with updated graphic, better voiceover. It could be really cool, something I would love to see. Now, one of the cooler things about Black Flag was the freedom. You weren't locked into one way of completing a mission most of the time. But let's be honest, a lot of missions were still too scripted. The game gave you this big open world, but sometimes funneled you through stealth tailing sections or fixed chase scenes. A remake could somewhat redesign these missions with more options, some sandbox elements, and dynamic enemy behavior. Think more of the black box missions we had in Syndicate and Unity. Yes, we had black box missions in Shadows, but in Unity and Syndicate, we got objectives within these black box missions that gave us unique cutscenes depending on which option we went with. These would be really cool to see, and something I would love to have in an Assassin's Creed game. Now, we've talked about what I want, but just a quick one about how expectations for an open world game have changed. And I mean, since 2013, the genre has really evolved. The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, Ghost of Tsushima, these games raised the bar. Players now expect deeper stories, better characters, meaningful side quests, and a world that doesn't feel like a checklist. If the Black Flag remake is going to compete, it can't just lean on nostalgia. It has to meet or even beat modern expectation. That means modern designs, mechanics, and polish. And to be fair, it's not just about what we want, it's about what the game deserves. Now, a couple of cool ideas could be weather systems that matter, right? Storms could wreck your ship or mask your approach during a stealth raid, crew management, upgrading your crew, building loyalty, maybe even losing some members based on your choices, expanded underwater exploration, maybe diving into some ruins. I would say battling some sea creatures. I know there's a little bit of RPG element there, but just think about how cool it would be for a little side mission to battle a kraken. That could be quite cool. Then also not having a loading screen between jumping off your ship and going into the water to dive. It could be quite cool and a really decent place to find hidden treasures and dangerous places. These little elements would be quite cool, and I'm honestly interested on what ideas you have and what you would want added to a remake. Let me know about that in the comment section below. Now, some people worry that these remakes replace the originals, but that's not true. Look at Resident Evil 2 or the Final Fantasy remake. They took beloved games and gave them new life, all without erasing what came before. A Black Flag remake isn't about changing what made the game great, it's about finally giving the greatness, the polish, and power it always deserved. For fans, it would be a chance to relive it with fresh eyes. For newcomers, it'd be the perfect way to experience it for the first time. Making a remake though is harder and riskier than doing a remaster. It takes more time, more money, and to be honest, more creativity. But let's be honest, Black Flag was always about taking risks. Edward didn't play it safe, and neither should Ubisoft. They have the tech, they have the experience, and reportedly, the team behind the original naval systems, Ubisoft Singapore, is leading the project. Again, take that with a grain of salt. Leaks can be real, leaks can't be real, you know, a grain of salt. But if they are, that's insanely promising. They know this world, they know what worked, and they know what didn't. Now they just need to go all in. If Ubisoft wants to bring Black Flag back, they need to do more than pretty it up. They need to rebuild it with care, love, and vision that made the original such a standout, not a remaster, a remake. Because some games just aren't meant to be remembered, they're meant to be experienced again, the way they were always meant to be. And Black Flag, well, it deserves nothing less. So ladies and gentlemen, in the comment section down below, let me know what you think about a remake versus remaster. What would you rather have for Black Flag? But also, let me know some of your ideas about what you would want to be added to a Black Flag remake. Would you like extra DLC? Would you like some tie-ins with, i.e. Pirates of the Caribbean? Personally, I would, that'd be quite cool. Would you like open seamless worlds? Let me know down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, a like would be hugely appreciated. Comment down below what you think about all of this stuff. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you all have an amazing day. day, and I'll see you in the next video.